About a month ago, I released a video that provides a brief overview of the Mito Python library, which is a library that provides spreadsheet functionality to the Jupyter notebook. And so today, I'll be interviewing the developers and co-founder of the Mito Python library. And so without further ado, we're starting right now.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, welcome guys to the Data Professor YouTube channel. Before we begin, would you like to take a moment to introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having us. We're huge fans of the channel, so excited to be here. I'm Jake, and I'm one of the three. I'm part of the trio of the Mito squad here. And yeah, I'm I think head of growth is my official title, but nothing too official. So yeah, happy to be here.
Hey, I'm Aaron. I'm Jake's twin brother, working on Mito with him, and I'm mostly working on the technical, building out the product and doing some of the design work.
Cool. I'm Nate. I'm the third member of the team. I'm unfortunately not related to them. We all met at business school, and Aaron and I were in the engineering school as well together. I work with Aaron on the engineering team, building out Mito, the product, which we can definitely get into as we get into it.
Awesome. He's also too embarrassed to say that we actually all met in high school, before business school.
All right.
8th grade. So it's been a long time coming.
Wow. Yeah. So before continuing, since you're coming from a business background right now, you briefly mentioned that you're also from an engineering undergrad. Yeah. Could you explore
Totally.
Yeah. How did this Mito thing happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Mito at a high level is it's a spreadsheet built for data science. So essentially it's a spreadsheet that you can edit like you would edit Excel. And what it does is it generates Python code for you that you can then copy and integrate into your Python processes or turn into your Python processes if you don't have them. And thinking about that, a kind of an Excel-based spreadsheet that does Python, that's exactly where Aaron and I kind of sit. We were in business school and we were going to business school classes where we were doing, data analytics and pricing models in Excel. And then we were going to our computer science classes and we were learning Python and we were saying to ourselves, why are we using Excel, the tool built in, it feels like 1905. And really there's such a better way of doing things. And what we observed is that a lot of our friends from business school, maybe like Jake, tried to make that transition to Python, and some of them were able to, but it's also really hard. And kind of getting started on doing data science and getting started with Python data science specifically can be a big burden for a lot of people. And so we kind of approached this idea of how can we make it easy for people to get in and start writing Python code right away that does real analysis right away. And so it kind of came out of our experience of observing our friends struggle with these same problems. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so you're seeing an opportunity from the everyday problems that you guys are encountering. Yeah, that's very inspiring. So currently, what is the current stage of Mito? Is it released yet, or is it in beta phase? Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so we launched the tool in August, so it's been about 3 months. And it's released, so you can get access to it. So I've sent you, and I think you're going to provide to your viewers a link to our website where they can sign up, and also a Calendly link where they can get direct access to us and get right to the tool immediately. So we have over 1,000 people on the wait list, but we're offering to any of these viewers, because we're such big fans of the channel, I guess a jump to the front of the wait list, as it were. So yeah, so I think you're going to put it either in the below the video or something. They can go to the website and sign up, or just click on the Calendly link and you can sign up for a time to be onboarded to the tool. And yeah, and the way we work is just to get access. We'll have a meeting with you. We'll love to meet people, learn a little bit about you, and then we'll give you an account and get you on your way. And we're always, I think something we've been stressing from the beginning is we really want to grow the tool with our users. So we're looking to meet people, hear their use cases, hear their feedback, and really build features, one-to-one for people if needed. Yeah, excited to meet some of you out there at some point, hopefully.
Yeah. Could you, if it's shareable, could you share with us what is the figure of the user base for Mito at the moment?
Sure. Yeah. So we have 1,200 people on the wait list and about 100 active accounts. So
Mhm.
we're onboarding people slowly, pretty much for the reasons that I just mentioned, which is that we want to make sure we're really getting to meet the needs of our users in as much a
Mhm.
personalized way as we can. Certainly at this point, just to refine the tool and iterate the tool in an effective way. But then at a certain point, we definitely will look to scale and mass produce the tool, which is a weird thing to say about software, but at some point, certainly the goal.
Right. Yeah. So is the tool available on the PyPy? Can we pip install it or conda install it, or is it still in like alpha mode?
Yeah, so it's still in a bit of a closed alpha. If you
Mhm.
hack around it a little bit, you might be able to get access. But the best way to get access right now is signing up through the waitlist or scheduling a link. Eventually, will be a tool that you can install like any other Python package. But like Jake said, it's best that we can make sure that we build with people right now, so that we can support all the functionality and the use cases that they're trying to do.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting thing that we sort of just learned along the way is like we had all these ideas about what the tool was going to be, and then we started meeting our users, and there was just a lot. I think we were refreshed to see all the different ways people wanted to use the tool, and it really gave us new perspective. So from then, we just made it really a mandate to get involved with users as early as possible.
And I think an interesting thing here, and I'm sure I don't have to tell you, but like data science means a bunch of different things to a bunch of different people. There's pricing analysts, there's people who are doing biochemical research, there's all sorts of people across the spectrum. And so building a tool that supports all those use cases right off the bat is really hard. And so working with the people that are using it is really important to making sure that they're supported and they can do the analysis that they need, essentially.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, like for myself, I'm coming from a academic background, working as a associate professor at a research university. And yeah, so analyzing data, and particularly chemical and biological data set, is one of the things that I do in my daytime job. And I believe that Mito would be a very good tool for those breaking into data science, particularly those who are trying to learn Python. And like in our discussion prior to this, like you mentioned also that like trying to using Python to manipulate the data frame, that would be quite a big challenge. And I believe that Mito will serve that need and allow users to intuitively, graphically analyze, like modify the data frames, and then at the same time you get the code, the Python code that you could just use it, reuse it for your next analysis. Yeah, that would be a very, very good package.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of things there that I'd like to touch on. I think the first is anyone who's, I think, started to try to learn a programming language knows that the best way to learn something is really to start doing a project. And I think the initial barrier to creating your first Python script, when you have to just go to Stack Overflow and figure out the right syntax, it is quite daunting. And it's Nate and I have been there, and even coming from the computer science education that we have, it's not the easiest thing to get started with. But having a tool like Mito, where you can take your spreadsheet skills and the things that you know how to do really well, and you can immediately start generating Python code. And as you generate that Python code, as you edit the spreadsheet, you see exactly the Python code that correlates to what you've just done. It's a really easy way to kind of try out and kind of learn the syntax of Python while actually kind of contributing and making progress to a project that you're excited to be working on.
Yeah. And I think the learning piece is an interesting example of, like, we did not build this tool. We didn't come up with this idea as an education tool. We really thought of this tool as, and are still building this tool as, a data processing tool, a faster spreadsheet that is backed by Python, so you can do large data analysis very quickly and in a repeatable way. But as we launched the tool, a lot of people were interested in using it as learning, and I think that the perspective of the learners has only furthered the ability of the tool in terms of our development. So yeah, it's been great to hear that perspective, and I think that we've a lot of people have got a lot of great educational value out of the tool, even though it's also being used to do real data analysis.
Right. Yeah, so another question that I have is, there are similar tools available currently that is doing something similar to what Mito is. Could you maybe explore like the similarities, differences in some of the areas that Mito is exploring that other tools is not? Like how do
Totally.
we differentiate that?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. So I think the two kind of types of tools that we can break things down into are, in terms of similar things, I think the probably the most relevant and closer related tools that exist are something like PandasGUI, which you may have heard of. It's essentially a front end on top of your data frames. And I think in many ways we're motivated by the same kind of similar thinking as tools like that, where we want to give convenient front ends to people who maybe aren't as or still kind of getting started with Python, let's say. I think where we differ is we actually see the spreadsheet itself as a long-term avenue for analysis. I mean, Excel is it's the largest used data analysis tool in the world, and it has been for the past 20 years, and it probably will be for the next 20 years. And so there's a huge number of people who know how to use a spreadsheet, and they're experts, or at the very least, they know how to get their analysis done. And we're focused on how can we unblock them in their entire process from start to finish, not just showing them their data, but really allowing them to complete their analysis in the context that they're used to while still getting that Python code out of it. I think that's kind of how we're similar and kind of the main way in which we're different from those tools as well.
Cool.
Yeah, and go ahead, Aaron.
I was going to say, I think we talked about like the kind of the learning use case, and there's people who want to learn Python, whether it's for a side project or for doing something at work. But then, as Nate talked about, Excel is a very powerful analysis tool. And another kind of big segment of our users are people who are Excel power users. They know how to, they can do anything that they want in Excel, but they're kind of frustrated by kind of the lack of repeatability that Excel provides. So for example, we're working with like a pricing analyst, for example, who every week he's creating a report to figure out the shipping costs of sending their products across the world. And what that process looks like for him right now is he weekly is downloading data from an ERP system. He's doing the analysis that he's really good at doing, but he has to do every week over and over again. And then he's doing some pivoting, doing some data cleaning, and sending off that report to his colleagues. And although Excel is a great tool for doing that analysis one time, it's unfortunate that every time you need to make that same report, you have to do the analysis again. And that's one of the places where Python shines, is that once you have that Python script, it's really easy to kind of hit play and get that report automatically generated for you. So I think the way that he's using it and the way that a lot of our other users are using Mito is, they get to create that initial analysis using Excel. They don't have to dive into Stack Overflow and dive into the Python documentation to figure out how to do their analysis again. And then they're creating that script, and then they never have to worry about doing that redundant analysis over and over again. They get it kind of for free automatically.
Yeah, that's actually a great point. From my academic background, like one of the most important part of doing research is reproducibility and also the reliability, because sometimes when, let's say that if you're doing particular tasks once a year, you might be a bit fussy about like the specific details about like, what did you actually do? Did you take it from this column to this column up until which row? But if you're doing every day, then there's less of a mistake there. But then if you have the Python code, whether it's like you're doing it daily or weekly or monthly or yearly, I mean, it's a great aspect that you're mentioning, and Mito shines in that respect. Yeah. And as you're talking, it sounds to me like it's like a macro. Like we could record. Could you maybe like differentiate?
No.
Is it like that?
No, I think the mental model of it's just like an Excel macro, but it's Python is a really awesome way of thinking about it. I think the main difference there of like it's Python, again, I don't have to tell you, but it's, the world of Python is much more rich than the world of Excel macro scripting language, because, you and your academic colleagues probably have libraries of functions that you use and machine learning tools and visualization tools and a whole world of tools that don't exist in Excel and in Excel macros. And so by existing inside of the Python ecosystem, we have the ability to work with all of these super powerful tools if it makes sense in your workflow. And that's what's really kind of awesome for our users, is we have the ability to say, come here, do your analysis, and we'll grow with you into more advanced, more in-depth, and more robust analyses as you do them, which is I think a cool thing.
If you gave someone the option of their macros being backed by Python or VBA, it's like a pretty clear choice to use Python. VBA, no offense to VBA,
Right.
we're fans, but it doesn't compare
Yeah.
to Python. But the hurdle there is that people don't know how to code Python. So that's one of the things we're solving for. We're allowing you to generate Python just by editing a spreadsheet. So no coding knowledge required. You can still access the power of Python.
Right. Yeah. In terms, yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say, just also to your academic use case, I think something that might be interesting to you is there's reproducibility, which is being able to rerun the same process and make sure it's the same. And there's another layer of that, which is auditability, which is for your research colleagues being able to look at their papers and their work and making sure checking their work, essentially peer review in some sense. And this is another thing, a Python script is much easier than, well, first I edited cell A1 and then I edited cell A2. It's much easier to read and follow as well. And so there's a collaborative kind of sharing aspect of this that comes with it too.
Yeah, that's an awesome point. Yeah, like as you mentioned, like when you're writing a research paper, you could be fussy into like the small details of what you actually did. But then the code doesn't lie. You just look at the code and you know exactly like which columns were combined or deleted. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. I think one of the more shocking things that I heard as we've been talking to so many users is because you're right, Excel and Google Sheets doesn't have this kind of step-by-step history of what you've done. We've talked to a couple teams who have created their own system of tracking this. And essentially what the process that they've generated is they have a separate sheet in their workbook. And anytime you make any edit, no matter what it is, you have to log exactly what you did, what it affected, and it's their way of keeping that record. And they think about it more for as the team turns over, and when you talk to upper management, them getting to kind of understand the exact process that you took. But we've also worked with a couple like graduate students who are doing research, and they come from a very similar perspective as you just mentioned. And the reproducibility and getting to see exactly what you've done and share it with your peer audience is an important part of academia.
Right. Yeah. So as we were talking, like an idea popped in. Actually, we've also briefly explored similar ideas prior to this podcast. Is the ability to introduce our own custom function. Like let's say that I have a custom function to calculate properties of a protein. And would I be able to import that ability into Mito so that I could calculate the properties on the basis of the data inside the spreadsheet of Mito?
Yeah. Jake, feel free to hop in. You have a great quote about this. I think the way Jake talks about it is we want to unlock the most powerful spreadsheet workflows and the most powerful Python workflows at the same time. And a huge piece of that is really ease of moving between one and the other. And so if you have a Python script that you've already written, you already have a little piece of business logic implemented, for example, or a protein calculation, we're working on functionality that will allow you to take that and use that in your spreadsheet, and then take the output of that and use that in your Python code. And really what we imagine is a very fluid world where you know how to do things in spreadsheets? Great, get it done, point and click, move super quick. You need some more advanced Python functionality? Awesome, import it into your spreadsheet and use it there. And so this kind of really fluid interplay between using Python when you need it and using your spreadsheet because it's easy is a really awesome way we think of kind of getting analysis done as quickly and as powerfully as possible.
Yeah. I think another, like at a broader sense about customizability, there's a huge advantage to us of being built on top of the Python environment. Like Excel is built on top of the Microsoft environment. So you can integrate with Word and you integrate with PowerPoint and maybe Apple numbers if you're really feeling crazy. But we're built on top of Python, which is such a robust community really of analysis tools. So since you're in a notebook, you can import any package you want, and our tool, as long as you can get your data into a data frame, which is super easy to do in 99% of cases, can work seamlessly with any package you want to use. And I think one caveat there is that is maybe a more advanced use of our tool. If you're not a Python user, if you're not comfortable with Jupyter Notebooks at all, you can just go right to the sheet and you can do the entirety of your analysis within this spreadsheet, and forgetting that you're even in Jupyter Notebooks and still enjoying the power that Python provides you in the back end.
Right. Yeah. Another crazy idea. Maybe for like an idea for you guys as well. Is it possible to create plots or visualization in Mito, or kind of like mimic the functionality of Plotly? like if let's say I want a scatter plot or a 3D scatter plot or some other complicated charts, is it possible to click and get that plot?
It's a great question. It's on the roadmap and coming soon, and not something that we currently support in full. But definitely something that our users have been clamoring for, and definitely something that we're working towards supporting. The Excel drag and drop graphing interface that also, again, still generates Python code for you, and really maybe even generates a PDF and emails it, is totally the dream long-term of where our tool is going in terms of generating reports, generating repeated analyses. I think it's an awesome. You're killing it on feature suggestions.
Yeah, and not to make the same point twice in a row, but I will though, is that, you know, we don't support that currently, but you know, just like what I just said, you know, you can match our tool's current functionality with the functionality of any other tool in the Python environment, any other package in the Python environment, because you can just have them both in your notebook.
Right.
So we're not, you know, I think we're not held back in that way where it's like, I'm going to wait 10 years for Excel to release this new feature I need. Whereas being in the Python environment, you could probably find a package that will do that. Although we still are, you know, quickly building out the functionality at the same time.
Right. Yeah. It's like if I'm understanding this correctly, right now Mito is essentially looking into data manipulation, data handling directly as like a spreadsheet. And probably down the line, you might be expanding to other functionalities like visualization, or even like ability to drag and drop files directly into the Jupyter.
Exactly. Yeah. Ideally, we would like someone, just like they show up to Excel, do their entire analysis and send out a report. If anything, we would like to be a more comprehensive analysis solution, which means your files get pulled in automatically if possible. Your report gets rerun. Again, because we're in Python, it's just a script. We can rerun this report. And then, oh, you'd like to email someone? Awesome. We can do that from Python as well. And so really, I think the point here is that we're afforded a lot of flexibility and power because of the environment that we're in. I mean, you can do anything in a programming language like Python.
Right.
And so being able to support the full range of someone's analysis workflow and their repetitive tasks or ad hoc analyses or protein folding or product pricing, whatever it is, we want to be there to support that.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
We like to take credit for all this fancy functionality we can work with, but it's really just because we picked to do it in Python. No credit to us. It was a good real estate move.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, totally agree with you on that. And yeah, there's so many awesome packages, libraries in Python. And one of the popular one on my channel is Streamlit, where you could use it to develop your own web application. I mean, it would be awesome that if there's a way for you guys to collaborate with the folks over there to add like an object where we could just directly insert your Mito object, spreadsheet object directly into a web app from within Streamlit. Like I've seen like other libraries like Spacey, they also have something so that the
awesome.
Users working on NLP could directly embed their data in the Streamlit.
I think that's an awesome idea, and definitely something we'd be interested in. If any Streamlit developers are watching, feel free to reach out. We would love to chat. But I think that's something we'll definitely look into. I think it's a great idea. Again, because visualizing your data in a spreadsheet is super helpful at the end of the day for the end user, and so allowing that to be put in a web app would be super useful as well.
Right.
Most definitely. Yeah, I think it's an awesome idea.
All right. So can we maybe hop on to other topic, like when you're starting this Mito project, could you explain like the startup story, like who started it and how did you guys keep yourself motivated at the early stage prior to launching this closed alpha mode? And what are your roadmaps down the line? And are you going to have an IPO or are you going to, so maybe your story. So it might be inspiring for other aspiring startups. Yeah.
I think we can all jump in on this one because there's a lot to tell. But we went to high school together. Aaron and I are brothers, so have known each other for at least a few years. And I think in our senior year, we all had different experiences in college. Nate did some blockchain stuff. Aaron also did some blockchain stuff. Worked in finance. I worked in tech. And I think we were all interested in maybe continuing those things, doing other things. But Nate had an idea for exploring spreadsheets as an interesting space. And Aaron and I got involved and yeah, we worked on it a lot through senior year. Went through different iterations of the tool, and I think that's in terms of like one of the things we learned along the way is like we thought like our first idea was amazing, and it was not, and that was hard to grapple with. And I think one of the things that like helped us through that is just meeting other founders and talking to them and understanding like the process of pivoting and iteration when it comes to a startup. It's just not something that I think is glorified as much in like the garage startup story. So we built different types of spreadsheet tools and really settled on, I think the clarifying moment was like, we just really kind of sat down and we're like, what are the biggest problems with spreadsheets? And we found it was the speed, the data size limit, and the lack of repeatability. And I think from there, we found, Aaron and Nate had the experience to say, Python does all these things super, super well. What if we could put a spreadsheet front end on top of Python? And that was kind of the inception. And maybe you guys want to talk a little bit about like, where we're headed.
Yeah, I think Jake did a great job of kind of capturing where we've been. I think right now we're focusing on continuing to ingrain ourselves in the data science community, and as we've talked about, there's so many use cases for spreadsheets that we're trying to catch up and learn more about how people are using the tool. And it's amazing how many new ways we hear about people using spreadsheets each day. And yeah, I think where we're going is just to kind of continuing building kind of the spreadsheet point and click functionality on top of the Python programming language. As we've talked about, Python is an incredibly powerful tool, but it does kind of, there's a big learning curve to get over the hump and to be able to start using it to, really create value, maybe at work or on a project or something like that. And we are lucky to have the experience of Excel programming and Python programming, and almost all of our friends who are in business school love their spreadsheets, and they don't know anything about Python. So we're excited to continue building this functionality to bring the power of Python, like Jake just talked about, to these people who have really big ideas of things that they want to automate and processes they want to build, but just don't necessarily have the Python ability to do it right now.
And I think, just to wrap it up real quick, I think that in terms of like thoughts on this process for us and really kind of making a startup, I speak for all of us when I say it's been incredibly fun and incredibly rewarding and so challenging at times. Like Jake said, the process of figuring out what we were doing and what we were working on was way harder than we expected it to be. And I think to the point of, we come out of business school and engineering school, and I think the thing that we realized at the end of the day is, for us at least, the best thing to do is to work on something that's close to I don't want to say our hearts, but at the end of the day, we do love spreadsheets at this point, right? And so working on something that we know and we understand has allowed us really to engage with the communities that would benefit from it and are hurt by the problems that we're trying to solve. And so really, I think our biggest lesson has been pretty much understanding the problems that we're trying to solve from a real first person perspective, actually living those problems is, at the end of the day, the only way we're going to be able to make something useful that actually helps people. And so that's really at the end of the day, what we keep coming back to is, we need to understand these problems of our users and of ourselves so we can build something that actually improves their lives and helps them, do the analysis that they want.
I think we tell a pretty good story. I will expose one low point, which is, at one point we were trying to understand whether the speed use case was whether people really felt that spreadsheets were too slow. And our tactic to do that was let's just call people. Let's message people on LinkedIn. Let's call them and let's tell them that we have a way to increase the speed of their spreadsheet by 5x. And we would get on the calls with these people and we'd be yeah, so we'd love to speed up your spreadsheets. And they'd be how? And we'd be well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We'll figure it out. So I think that was a pretty low week, I would say, but we learned a lot from it for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be an awesome idea to have a competition. On one end, we could traditionally use Excel, and at the other end, we could use Mito, and then do a face-to-face competition. And let's see how many X Mito can get the task done. Yeah, that would be awesome to have. Yeah, I could go viral on YouTube.
Well, I think you're totally. Do you remember the old Macintosh versus Windows advertisements, where like I'm Mac, I'm Windows comparisons. Like we think that same sort of beef might be good. Although, the might of Microsoft scares us a little bit, but I think you're totally right. A race to the finish line would be good fun.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah. Or other alternatives to others like the Google Sheet or Open Office. Yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
totally.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So speaking of Mito and Python, like at the technical side, is Mito based on Pandas data frame?
Yeah. So so two things I think are worth highlighting here. So Mito integrates essentially directly with any Pandas data frame. You can essentially display inside of a Mito spreadsheet. And in some ways you can kind of think about us as being a front end over how you normally interact with, a Pandas square. And more than that, the other interesting thing here is that we're also, we integrate with Jupyter, and we sit inside of Jupyter, or Jupyter Lab, if you've heard of it, which is
in the output.
Yeah, it's essentially, Jupyter is essentially one of the go-to data science, Python data science programming places. And so it's kind of where we sit as well.
Right, yeah. And like recently I've been exploring into other libraries like for machine learning, deep learning, or big data processing. There are like, for example, the Rapids library from NVIDIA. They have this thing called the cuDF. So it's essentially like a CUDA data frame. Is it in your roadmap to maybe support that in the future? Or there's also like Dask as well.
Yeah, Dask. That's the one for huge, massive, truly massive data sets, right?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. I think any rectangular data frame that we can put in a spreadsheet, I think is definitely something that we're moving towards supporting.
Right.
And I think the thing there is, as we get into those use cases, once we bump into someone who's trying to do NVIDIA, then we'll cross the bridge of NVIDIA. And we're only a team of 3, so we're trying to move along stepwise kind of. But I think, definitely integrating with other data frame libraries so we can kind of interact with any part of the Python ecosystem that people are in is definitely something that's on the roadmap for sure. Right. I think it's a great idea. Yeah.
Right. That would be awesome. Yeah. So a couple of days ago or weeks, I made a video about BlazingSQL notebooks. So their platform is based on the Rapids library from NVIDIA. And I was just thinking that Mito would be a great fit for embedding it directly into the BlazingSQL. And users could log in, and it's essentially a Jupyter lab. So similar to the demo that I've been using from Mito. So maybe, I don't know, like maybe if it would be great that you guys could maybe talk about it, like doing some partnership with BlazingSQL. Maybe they could embed your Mito directly into their environments. Or even talk to Google so that Google Colab could directly support Mito out of the box. Yeah, that would be great.
I think that's an awesome idea. Yeah, I think both are super cool. In terms of the BlazingSQL one, I don't know if I've seen that package specifically, but I'm guessing it's a SQL database interaction tool where you can essentially query your database. And I think the point there, which I think you pointed out, which I think is totally right, is like if you think about what a SQL database is, at the end of the day, it's something that fits super well inside of a spreadsheet, right? It's just, you can slap it right in there. Yeah, no, I think you're totally right. And kind of, in many ways, spreadsheets capture pretty much, there's a reason it's the number one, analysis tool in the world. It really captures, I think, that use case among many others, like incredibly well. Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, cool. I think just the idea of partnering with all these other tools that you're mentioning, which are all such good ideas, like it's one of the reasons we're really excited about the space we're operating in. Like the data science space, the Jupyter space is just so open, and like we're confident that if there's a value that we can provide to other tools and and they can do the same for us, like that's something that's just so accepted in the culture of the space we're building in, which is really exciting.
And I also think it's something we have previously talked to a lot of people that are more in the kind of the finance and the investment banking world. And one of the things I think, as Jake mentioned, why we're like so excited about Mito and working in this community is that the data science community is so open to trying new tools and experimenting and providing feedback. And our weeks are packed with people filling out the Calendly because they're interested in trying out Mito and giving us feedback and incorporating it. And it's such a welcoming community to be part of. And we're really grateful for that.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, could we maybe dive into like the specific details? Like how do you handle all of the feature requests? Do you group them together? Like how do you actually like go from idea to implementation?
Yeah, it's a really cool idea, a really cool question. So it's definitely something that as we've kind of grown as a startup, that process has evolved. I think kind of the approach that we're taking now is we have this set of onboarded users. It's about 100, and we have pretty close contact with them. And as they start to use the tool on new projects and new analyses, we have a dialogue with them about what sorts of functionality do they need us to build to support their workflow. And we're kind of prioritizing the new features that will fit their cadence and their process. And in terms of actually like developing that functionality, I think we've kind of taken this approach of building incrementally. So you've had the product for a few weeks now, and maybe you've seen kind of the filter functionality evolve, for example. So it started out with you could apply one filter to a column, and we gave you a list of filters. And as we got that out into the wild and people started using it, we heard about people wanting to apply multiple filters to multiple columns, and we've kind of iterated each feature as we've gone. So it's not a strict, we don't have a 3-year long roadmap that we're executing, but we have, new features that we're bringing in constantly and trying to just evolve to grow with the user base that we have.
And next week it's going to be advanced biometrics for you. You'll see it.
Yeah, so aside from the new features that you guys are implementing, based on the feature request, could you maybe dive into some details? Like what can you group them? Like what topics are users requesting for at the moment?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think even maybe Nate or Aaron can pull up our tracker here and kind of read off some stuff to you. But I think at a high level, it's about the type of the types of analysis. So right now there's a lot of like data cleaning that is being used the tool for, and the tool is working really well for. I think other areas of analysis that we're looking to get into, or at least we're seeing demand to move in that direction, is like time series analysis. Some people want to prepare data for machine learning in the tool. I'm trying to definitely jump in, guys. I'm trying to think other like big categories of.
I think another huge category and something that we're really trying to work on currently is thinking it really critically from a product perspective. How can we help people get started? Like, the hardest part of any Python process is your first line of code. The first line of code that has your actual data takes 94% of the time, because you don't know what environment you're in. You don't know where your data is. You have to get it all in the same place. You have to read it in, and your file path is screwed up. And so one thing we're really thinking critically right now, and I think probably the biggest thing that we're getting requests for, is how can we make it easier for people to take their data wherever it is, a database, a CSV file, their email, and bring it into the sheet so they can start using it with Python. So I think Jake did an awesome job describing kind of the analysis kind of functionality that we're building out. And then there's also kind of the workflow part of the functionality that we're trying to build out and support. How can we help people actually get their data in to start doing their Python analysis in the first place? Is kind of the other main group of functionality as well.
Yeah, that would be great. Like to have some sort of widget where, like, in parallel to what Mito is doing with the spreadsheet, to handle all of the data, import or export of the data.
Exactly. 100%. And notably, you should be able to click, I want it from this source. Here's a link or something, and it should appear. It should be right there, and your Python code should be there as well. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Aaron, do you maybe want to talk about scheduling a bit? I think it's something we've thought a little bit about.
Yeah, definitely. So I think, we've talked about people are using Mito right now to automate that analysis process. And what we're kind of hearing demand for, and one of the things that we're excited to build, to continue to build, is not just automating that one, what you would do in the Excel sheet, but as Nate mentioned, automating bringing the data in, and then the other side of that, which is, sending and communicating the report that you're generating. So one of the things that we're starting to scope out and starting to build is where does the analysis go when you're done Mito? And some people are interested in, updating a dashboard that maybe lives online somewhere, maybe in a Google Sheet or in some Google Drive or something like that. Some people are interested in sending an email. There's lots of kind of different ways that people communicate these reports. And we're interested in helping people kind of schedule it. So you can click a button, set it to run every week, and it just happens automatically. You don't have to worry about it. And yeah, I think it's been something that we've starting to, as more and more people kind of start to use the tool, it's something that we're starting to see more demand for.
Yeah, that would be great to have. Yeah, I have this question, but then I keep forgetting to ask. Is how did you come up with the name Mito?
I think Jake, you came up with the name, so
Yeah, that's the only reason I'm on the company still, is because I came up with the name. They can't fire me. It's so we all met. So I guess we all met in middle school, which is kind of fitting because that's where we learned about like basic biology. And like there's this, it's kind of like a meme now for like kids our age who learned it in middle school, where like the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. So mitochondria, powerhouse of the cell. Spreadsheets have cells. Jupyter has cells. And then mitochondria is a powerhouse. So we feel like because Python is like powerhousing this cell structure for us, that's a super over-explained version of what it is. But yeah, essentially it was that. There were lots of other ideas. I can't remember them all, but
yeah, that's a great story.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I think Mito has a lot of great potential for the future as well. And there's a lot of avenues to explore with Mito. And I think you guys will keep on innovating, have new ideas from users, and develop useful tools that will benefit data scientists, analysts, and biologists or other professionals as well. And yeah, so perhaps a final remark from you guys before we sign off. What would you like to say to our subscribers and viewers on this channel?
Yeah, I think I guess, well, if anyone has watched the entirety of the video, we thank you for listening to us this whole time. But our priority is definitely to have you use the tool. So the two ways you can get it, which I mentioned in the beginning, are one, sign up at our website, which we'll make available to you. And then two, we'll have a Calendly link where you can schedule the call with us directly, and we'll get you started on the call. So yeah, really, we're happy to speak for the tool, but we really want the tool to speak for itself because we're really excited about it. And yeah, and so want to get you on as quickly as possible. And we mentioned anyone from this video who comes, we'll put you at the top of the wait list. And yeah, I think we stressed a few times, we're really looking to build with our users. So we hope to meet you and really make the tool work as best as we can for you.
And thanks so much.
Yeah.
It was awesome. It was great talking.
This is
All
awesome.
Right. It's a pleasure to have you guys
We're
here.
huge fans of the channel. So
all right, thank you.
And subscribe.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you for staying with us until the end of this video, but don't go just yet because I have some important announcement to make. So about a week from now, the team over at Mito will be developing a tutorial where they will be showing us how easy it is to use the Mito Python library in order to handle data. And so please stay tuned for that. And if you're finding value in this video, please give it a like, subscribe if you haven't yet done so, hit on the notification bell in order to be notified of the next video. And as always, the best way to learn data science is to do data science. And please enjoy the journey. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you in the next one. But in the meantime, please check out these videos.